Hi everyone, it's your girl PRISCY from PASTEE and PRISCY Bible Trivia. Your motivation, encouragement, and hope in Christ is our concern. What do we have for you? We want to share an interesting and lovely story about Queen Esther with you. Someone might even ask, how did Esther become a queen? Because Esther was just an orphan Jew. Esther had nothing to do with royalty, and she was not from the royal family. But let's see how Esther became a queen. From our Bible, the book of Esther chapter 1. There lived a king called Xerxes. He ruled over 127 provinces. He was married to a queen called Vashti. On the third year of his reign, he organized a banquet for his people and nobles. On the seventh day, the king was in high spirits of wine, so he commanded his servant to bring before him Queen Vashti, wearing her royal crown to display her beauty to the nobles and people. But unfortunately, when the servant delivered the message, Queen Vashti refused to come. Indeed, the king was so furious and burned with anger. Due to Queen Vashti's disobedience, the king decided to destitute her from being the queen. Oh, this sounds so badly, but no one disobeyed the king and goes scot-free. To continue with our main story, let's look at how Esther became the queen. From the book of Esther chapter 2, as time goes on, the king proposed to his people to search for a beautiful young and virgin woman. So they brought a lot of women to the palace, which Esther, the orphan Jew, was included. Fortunately, Esther's appearance and everything pleases everyone at the palace, which includes the king. So they set the royal crown on her head. As it is said earlier, the girl who will please the king will be the queen. From there onwards, the king commanded to treat Esther special, immediately provided her beauty treatment and special food. From the Bible, Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background because her cousin Mordecai forbidden her to do so. Every day, Mordecai would walk back and forth near the courtyard to see what was happening to Esther and how she was doing. Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. There were two of the king officials who guided the doorway. The Bible made it clear that these people became angry and conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. When Mordecai found about their plot, he told Queen Esther, in turn reported it to the king. Investigation was done, and these two people was hanged on a gallows. This was recorded to the book of Anna, the presence of the king. From the book of Esther chapter 3, there was a man called Haman, whom the king elevates and has given him a seat of honor, higher than that of the other officials. So, all the officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to him. But Mordecai refuses to do so. When Haman realized Mordecai's disobedience, he plotted to destroy the Jews. When Mordecai realized what Haman has plotted, he pursued Esther here. As soon as Esther heard about it, she told Mordecai to gather people who are Jewish to fast 3 days for her, and she will do so. Then after her 3 days fasting, she will go and see the king, because no man or woman approached the king in the inner courts without being summoned by the king. If you do so, he or she will be put to death. So Esther decided that after her 3 days fasting, she will go and see the king. If she perishes, she perishes. I hope you are enjoying the story. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes, stood at the inner court of the palace, in front of the king's hall. When the king saw Esther, he was pleased and held out the golden scepter on his hand. Esther approached and touched the tips of the scepter. From the book of Esther chapter 5, then the king asked, "What is it, Esther? What is your request? Even if it is half the kingdom, it will be given to you." If it pleases the king, Queen Esther answered, "Let the king, together with Haman, come to the banquet I have prepared." The Bible made it clear that the king and Haman did as Esther requested. The king asked Esther the second request, and she said the same thing about the banquet he had prepared. During the second banquet, whilst they were drinking the wine, the king asked Queen Esther again, Esther, what is your petition? It will be given to you. From the book of Esther chapter 7, verse 3 to 4. Then Queen Esther said, if I have found favor with you, your majesty, and it pleases you, grant me my life, there is my petition, and spare my people life, there is my request. The verse 4, for I and my people have been sold to be killed, have been sold to be destroyed, killed and annihilated. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet because no such distress justified disturbing the king. Lovely people, as the story is coming to an end, then King Zaza asks, who is he? Who is the man who dared to do such a thing? Then Queen Esther replied, the enemy is the vile Haman. Then Haman's face was terrified before the king and the queen. Then the Bible stated, as the king went to the palace garden and returned back, the enemy was already on his knees begging for Esther. The king became more ferocious, and as soon as words left the king's mouth, Haman's face was covered. A gallon 75 feet height that Haman has plotted for Mordecai, that was where Haman was hanged.